very disapproving of pleasure.
Not all pleasure. Nice Julie Andrews film with tea after.
What, tea at the Odeon Cafe?
Nothing nicer. Which reminds me, I was supposed to be making her tea in this play we started doing.
I'm sorry. We got sidetracked.
Oh, God, she'll have something to say to me, she will. She'll have me on the carpet. Nice thing, leaving the table without finishing your dinner. Leaving me stuck here like Joe Egg.
I join in these jokes to please him. I do. I think it helps him live with her. I can't see the harm. He doesn't have any faith that she's ever going to improve, whereas I have. I believe that even if she showed improvement, Bri just wouldn't notice. Because he's dense about faith. I don't think that faith is believing in fairy tales. I think that faith is being in a receptive frame of mind. I mean, I'm always on the lookout for a sign. Once, when she was 12 months old, she was lying on the floor, kicking her legs about, and I was doing the flat, and I'd made this tower of 4 coloured bricks, just plastic bricks on a rug near her head. And I got them with my dusting, and when I looked again, I saw that she'd knocked them down. So I put these 4 bricks back up, and this time I watched her. Now, first her eyes, they move in all directions, and I think they must have just sort of glanced in passing at this bright tower. Then, the arm, that side, it suddenly began to show real signs of intention. Her fist just started clenching and spreading with the effort. Now, the other arm, held here, like that, didn't move at all. You see the importance? She was using for the first time one arm instead of both. She'd seen something, she'd touched it, and she'd found that when she touched it, whatever it was changed, it fell down. Now the arm, it started twitching towards the bricks. It must have taken 10 minutes. I mean, strenuous labour for her to reach them with her fingers. And then her hand jerked back in a spasm, and she pulled down the tower. I can't tell you what that was like. You can imagine that several times her hand very nearly touched it, and it would get jerked away again by a spasm, and she'd try again. That was the best of it. She had a will. She had a mind of her own. As soon as Bri came home, I told him. And he said something stupid. He said, "Oh, that's great. Put her down for piano lessons." But when he tested, he was putting piles of bricks all along the circle of her reach, both arms, sometimes even out of reach, so she had to stretch to get there. Well, of course, he saw that it was true. I know it isn't much to wait for. One arm movement complete. Even that wasn't sure. She'd fall asleep, firelight would distract her. Sometimes the effort would bring on a fit, but more often than not, she'd manage it. Now, I just don't think that a vegetable could have done it. Visitors never believed it because they hadn't the patience to watch for so long. And I remember being amazed. It stunned me when I realized that they thought I shouldn't deceive myself. I mean, it wasn't deception. Anyway, what else could I do? We got very involved in the daily games. We found these coloured balls. Anna Kelly, remember those clowns that just won't lie down? And then she caught a bug. And she was very sick. She had fit after fit. I mean, the grand mal, not the others. It was what amounted to a complete relapse. And when she was over it, we tried her again with the bricks, and she couldn't even seem to see them. That's when Bri lost interest in her. I still try. I mean, I don't bother telling him. I will. I'll tell him when something happens. It seems to me that it's only common sense. If she did it once, she could do it again. I just think, while there's life, there's hope. Don't you? I do wish that he'd talk more seriously about her. You know, I do wonder if he ever imagines what she'd be like if her brain worked. Because I do. And Bry's mum, she's always saying, wouldn't she be lovely if she was running about? Just makes Bry to hoot with laughter. But I do. I do think about it. Perhaps it's being a woman.
Mr. C, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F-I, Mr. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T, Y, Mr. C, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F-I, Mr. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T, Y. Ladies and gentlemen, there'll now be an interval. Afterwards, the ordinary play, with which we began the performance, will continue, and we shall try to show you what happens when Sheila returns home with her mutual friends, Freddie and Pam. Thank you.